Will, my friend, I'm joining you on the sidelines. There will not be a repeat national championship by Ohio State this year.
Hey, you know what? You didn't want one this year. You got Michigan.
No.
So you reversed last year's results where everyone last year was like, would you rather beat Michigan or win the national championship? You've done both scenarios. Which one felt the best?
I will say winning the national championship felt better.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe because I was there, a little bit different. Maybe if I was in Ann Arbor and was there for it, maybe that would feel a little different as well. But being at the national championship, winning the whole thing, running through the playoff, I don't know. It feels a little bit different. I remember when Ohio State won the BCS national championship in 2003. Now, granted, that was also beating Miami in the 11-point underdog. I was 10 years old. It was my real first exposure to college football that I remember. That was a little bit different, but I mean, hindsight, really good season. Actually, I don't know. That one was really good too. And then we went through a decade of kicking Michigan's ass, and there were games that didn't even matter because Michigan was so bad.
I don't want to hear it because both years are still very good, especially compared to mine. But you know what? We're in the portal. We're in the portal, Jake. Clemson is knuckle deep in this portal, and I'm finally getting to experience what it's like to have a second recruiting season. So I'm excited.
Ohio State got a long snapper.
Don't sleep on long snappers. You should see the long snapper Clemson got. Played linebacker at his high school too. He could lay the wood. Jackson Reach. Tell me that's not a great long snapper name. He's just going to reach back there and give the hold of the ball. I'll say this too.
Somewhere.
This is the first podcast in a long time where I'm not sick and my kids are not sick. However, any of you dads out there, I put my middle daughter, in her big girl bed today, laid her down, walked out of her room, and proceeded just to turn into a puddle. Listen, when you have kids, I'm already a crybaby. Everything makes you cry. So, Jake, even though I'm not sick, this is still my Jordan game because I'm showing up emotionally unstable.
Flu game without the flu.
Flu game. This is the boohoo game
without the flu.
Boohoo game.
All right, we no news to talk about this week. I mean, there's portal and guys staying, guys going.
Montana State versus Illinois State.
Montana State is up 21-7 at the half over in the SDS championship game. Montana's looking good. They're up big right now. We'll see if they hold on. Maybe we'll give an update here before the end of the episode. Everybody else that listens to us will know who won by the time this, they listen to this.
Maybe not. Breaking news. We will break the news.
We're going to skip any sort of portal draft, blah, blah, blah. We're 3 days into the portal. There's 4,000 players. There's guys committing. There's guys. I mean, apparently Kenny Minchie is going now to Kentucky instead of Nebraska. And now all of a sudden Sam Levitt's now not going to Kentucky. Yeah, we're not dealing with it.
There's still football on. And now because there's still football on, we're going to talk football.
Yeah, we're going to talk football. When everything and the dust has settled, we'll come back to all this portal stuff and see where everybody lands. And then we're going to do trivia to see where these 4,000 players all went to.
I like that.
Because there's no chance we're all going to know where they went.
Yeah. Can't wait.
All right, let's start with Miami and Ohio State. Obviously,
just rip the Band-Aid off.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. This game was on New Year's Eve. Miami, out of the gate, their line on both sides of the ball controlled this game.
You mean tell you the craziest stat? You mean tell you why Ohio State lost? Besides the score? You passed for more yards. You gained more yards than Miami. You only ran for 45 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And you only ran for 45 yards because Julian Sand just got sacked again. Julian Sand had 5 rushes for negative 42 yards. I can't remember how many sacks he had.
It was 5 sacks. He didn't rush the ball once. So
there you go. So all 5 sacks. So negative 42 yards is a lot. I mean, that's almost 10 yards a sack. He's almost getting you a holding penalty every time he was getting hit. So that's brutal. That's absolutely brutal. You take away half of those, it's a different game. I mean, and you look at the game, Miami won by 10, and you could look at it 2 ways. I know, Jake, you want to look at it perspective-wise, like y'all could have still been in it. You weren't that far off. You take away the pick 6, which is just a brutal mistake.
Yeah, it was a great play by the Miami defender, but it was also terrible blocking by Ohio State's wide receivers. Screen pass and the receivers and tight end all whiffed on the defender, where it was 2-on-1 and neither of them even chipped the defensive back who had an absolute clear shot. And that's always the worst scenario, because if the DB jumps that route, nobody's stopping him because the amount of momentum he has.
Yeah, and then Carson Beck didn't look special. I mean, he's just doing Carson Beck things. He's doing just enough. And
he only averaged 5.3 yards per attempt.
Yeah, which is not good.
Very low. That is a very, very low number. He never really threw the ball past the sticks. They basically took what the defense gave them. If you watch that, they're throwing 5-yard hitch routes, 4-yard this, 6-yard this, screen passes. Like, they never challenged the Ohio State defensive backs downfield. They did once or twice. It was never much.
They didn't have to, because Ohio State just sat in zone. And like, if I could pick Matt Patricia's brain, the Ohio State defensive coordinator, I would ask him, why did you never switch to man? Why did you never do any bluffs? Like, I don't understand why and maybe they thought, hey, at some point we will stop the run to where Carson Beck has to throw further than 5 yards down the field, 3 yards down the field.
Yeah.
It just never happened. I thought McDonald, I'm forgetting his first name, y'all's defensive tackle, I thought he played phenomenally. Caleb Downs obviously does Caleb Downs things, but everybody else, Sonny Styles.
Caleb Downs, first player in college football playoff history with 2 forced fumbles in the same game.
Yeah, that's insane. Classic Caleb Downs doing something insane. But to go back to Carson Beck, and I'm going to talk about this later with our keys to the game, but I think Miami's really found the identity in that they're a run-first team. And I think maybe during the season, you're like, hey, we just spent $4 million on this quarterback. Maybe we throw the ball a lot. And finally, they're like, hey, actually, we have one of the best offensive lines in the country. Why don't we use them? Why don't we use this tough, hard-nosed running back in Mark Fletcher and just chip away at teams and let Carson Beck just manage the game in the sense that, hey, only throw if it's 3rd and short. You don't have to do too much, do anything crazy. I mean, the longest catch was 16 yards from Mark Fletcher, and that was a screen pass. So outside of that, C.J. Daniels had a 13-yard catch, and Marion had a 14-yard catch. Malachi Toney, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 16 yards, and 7 yards was his longest catch. So they didn't do anything special.
No,
they didn't. Ohio State beat themselves, specifically the offensive line and the defensive line.
I don't want to say they beat themselves. Ruben Bain, had a phenomenal game. The defensive ends played phenomenally. Like Miami won this game more than Ohio State lost this game. I will be 100% transparent on that. I'm not going to sit here and say, Ohio State gave this game away. Ohio State did have opportunities. Ohio State had opportunities, granted all of the issues that they were having and the dominance that Miami was having on the defensive line, but they had opportunities, but they did not execute correctly, and there was some interesting and weird play calls. Like, I would not have called a screen pass after a 50-yard Jeremiah Smith touchdown. That's just me. I would not have done that. There is a picture of a play, maybe it's the second play after that was the interception, I don't remember, but there was a screenshot of the play before where Julian Saint had the tight end wide open over the middle and would have been a walk-in touchdown. And instead he threw it in a different direction and it was incomplete. So I thought Julian Saint looked like a freshman in this game. He looked scared. And part of it was the amount of pressure he was getting. Miami had 20 pressures on Julian Saint. The dude is running for his life constantly in this game. Ohio State's offensive line did not do a good job getting him feel comfortable. And when he did, he delivered because, he threw that 50-yard pass. 4th down, he does throw a touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith. But I thought Ohio State's game plan coming in this game was we'll be able to block with 5. Don't worry about Ruben Bain and company. We'll be able to block them. And instead, Miami's defensive line wreaked havoc. Absolutely wreaked havoc.
I misspoke. It was weird seeing Ohio State getting out physical. 2 blue bloods got completely out physical yesterday or this weekend. And when I say beat themselves, I mean they got beat because they couldn't. They got manhandled in the trenches. In the trenches. So yeah, hats off to Ruben Bain, Mesidor, and Lightfoot. I mean, just phenomenal football game.
Yeah. Keem Mesidor with 2 sacks, Ruben Bain with a sack, Marquise Lightfoot with a sack, and they controlled the game. They controlled the game, put Ohio State in tough situations. Carson Beck, though, I mean, when we talked about it, 5.3 yards per attempt. Didn't do anything crazy. They didn't ask him to do anything crazy. He hasn't been asked to do anything crazy in the last 2 games. He's thrown for 250 yards in the past 2 games. So it's not like he is out here, lighting up the scoreboard. He's really not showing his worth of $4 million if you're only throwing for 100 yards a game in the playoff. But you're winning, so it's all that matters.
He's almost throwing $1 million per attempt, yards per attempt.
Goodness.
Wait, no, hold on. I said that.
Yard per attempt. Yeah, yard per attempt.
Every yard per attempt, he's giving $1 million towards his contract. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Interesting to see. But, I mean, if you win the championship, it doesn't matter. Money well spent. If you lose, the classic Moneyball saying is nobody cares if you don't win the last game of the year. So
that's true.
That, especially in the 12-team playoffs, people aren't going to remember as much of who made the semifinals. Crazy psychos like us will. But speaking of not making the semifinals, Alabama got absolutely boat raced. This game was a beatdown, and we alluded to it last week, and we got called stupid and crazy and everything under the sun because we said that based off of everything statistically, Indiana was going to light it up on Alabama. And sure enough, Alabama was terrible. They were just flat out terrible the whole game. They tried to begin the game opening it up with the pass and seeing if the run would be there. And the longest run of the game was by Austin Mack after he came in for an injured Ty Simpson for 13 yards. And Austin Mack finished with -8 yards.
Yeah, just brutal. And the most glaring stat to me, Jake, is Alabama had 23 yards rushing.
Yeah.
23 yards rushing. Now, if I want to be nitpicky towards Indiana, I am mad about one thing. They beat Clemson's record first, beating Alabama, who had the biggest margin of victory against Alabama in the college football playoffs. So that's kind of bullcrap. I was mad about that. I liked our 16 or 20, whatever it was, point victory that we had in 2018. But I digress. Fernando Mendoza only threw for 192 yards, but he was surgical. He had more touchdowns than he had incompletions, Jake. He had 2 incompletions and 3 touchdowns.
Kalen Black, Roman Hemby, I mean, those guys were running with purpose. And they were just beating down the Alabama defense. Black, 99 yards. Hemby, 89 yards. I mean, you've got almost 200 yards between those 2 running backs. They're averaging 5 or 6 yards per carry. Just carrying the load. Yeah, Mendoza only threw the ball 16 times. But when you score 38 points and you're up 17-0 on Alabama at halftime, you don't need to sit here and have your quarterback throw it. I mean, there's a reason Alberto Mendoza played in this game.
Yeah. And I will say this too, Jake. 4 Indiana receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4 Indiana receivers out of the 6 that had a catch had over 30 yards receiving yards. Nowakowski, the tight end, had 36 yards. Elijah Surratt had 40 yards. Omar Cooper Jr. had 45 yards. And Becker had 51 yards. So all of them, nobody had a crazy game, but nobody needed to.
But they all had a catch of at least 30 yards, except Surratt. Surratt's long was 24. Right. So they all made big plays when they needed to.
Yeah, and they looked absolutely beautiful. But when you think, what's crazy is when you think of Indiana, you think of Fernando Mendoza, and we talked about it last week. He's not even the best player on their team, it seems like. He just holds it all together. That defense is what stirs this drink. That defense is what keeps them in every single game that they play. I don't have the words to describe how lethal and destructive and just maniacal that Indiana Hoosier defense is. What they did to Alabama was unbelievable. And when you give a Heisman winning quarterback that many opportunities to go out in the field, because I mean, let's look at Bama drives. 8 plays on their first drive, punt. 4 plays, 5 plays, 7 plays, 1 play, 3 plays, 9 plays, another big one. They got a field goal on that one. 3 plays, 11 plays. Most of their drives, they only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They only had 9 drives in the game. The second quarter was their biggest one. But most of the time when they got the ball, they weren't moving anywhere. And you just keep giving Fernando Mendoza the ball. What are they going to do?
Well, and I was a little concerned for Indiana at the start of this game because, I mean, teams with a bye are now 1-7. And prior to this, they were 0-6. And Indiana moved backwards on their first drive. Didn't play well. Mendoza gets sacked on 2 of the first 3 plays. And it's like, oh boy, are we going to see this happen again? And then, sure enough, Alabama can't do anything with good field position. And Indiana does a 16-play drive to drive down the field on 84 yards to kick a field goal. And yes, only a field goal. But 16 plays. There's no other way around it. You just bullied Alabama. 16-play drives for 9 minutes. You kept the defense out there. They're gassed. There's a reason why the next drive, they went 4 plays, 34 yards. It felt like Alabama realized very early that this game was not going to go in their favor. I mean, they went for it on 4th down inside their own 40-yard line, inside their own 35-yard line on 4th down and 1. There was multiple timeouts. Both teams called a timeout before it. They looked like they were going to run, Wildcat. Then they brought Ty Simpson back out. Then they ran Wildcat again and ran to the far side of the field on a running back handoff to a wide receiver. That felt desperate to me. That felt to me that Alabama knew what was happening. And if they punted that ball away, they already knew Indiana was going to drive down the field and score on them. Well, and that they had to play, you had to go shot for shot for them. And this was their way of saying, we've got to go shot for shot.
In my perspective on Alabama coming into the playoff anyway was they were playing with house money. I don't think they really deserved to be there. They played well in some big spots. Obviously, they beat Oklahoma last week, but Oklahoma was kind of in a similar boat.
They beat Georgia earlier this year.
Yeah, they did. Outside of that, the games that stick out to me for Alabama are Florida State, Georgia in the SEC championship, and then obviously this game.
They beat a good Vandy team as well.
Right. So, I mean,
the weird thing is Alabama was so up and down. They beat Georgia, they beat Vandy, they beat Missouri, they beat Tennessee. These are teams that, maybe they're not.
Tennessee didn't beat one team that was above 500 that was a Power 4 team.
I get that, but I still think Tennessee is an above-average team. I
agree.
I don't think Tennessee is a playoff contender, but I would call them an above-average team. Missouri, that defense is pretty good. Missouri had a pretty good defense this year. Vanderbilt, that was prime when Diego Pavia was taken over before they lost to Iowa.
All right, speaking of that, how awesome was it that Diego Pavia lost to Iowa after in the preseason said all you have to do is score 7 points to beat Iowa?
It was so poetic.
Poetic. Yeah, come on. Come on, Pavia.
I'm excited to talk about Indiana versus Oregon because I have some takes about this game. Not only they're that bold and not that spicy, but I can't wait to talk about this game. So let's jump over. Let's talk about Oregon, Texas Tech, because I'll be honest, there's not a lot to talk about in this game because this game was actually so boring that I took a nap at one point because Texas Tech couldn't move the ball. And it was very obvious early in the game that Texas Tech wasn't going to be able to, keep up. I mean, Texas Tech, 3 plays, 8 yards, 3 plays, -10 yards, 2 plays, interception, 6 plays, 54 yards and a missed field goal, 7 plays, 27 yards and a fumble, 3 plays, 6 yards. Like, they couldn't move the ball consistently. They never really got into position to actually threaten Oregon. There's a reason why Oregon was up 6-0, and it felt like it was almost an insurmountable lead. As soon as it got to 13-0, this game was over. This game was over.
But I will say, silver lining, Texas Tech did a really good job of kind of containing the Oregon offense.
Oh, yeah.
When you can't score and you turn the ball over as many times as they did, I think they had, 6 turnovers overall. It was how many exactly? They had 4 turnovers. It felt like 6. Obviously, like a team like Oregon's going to beat you, but Oregon only ran for 64 yards against
Well,
the
Texas Tech
team.
defensive line proved once again that it is one of the best. Lee Hunter
It's
made
legit.
some big plays. David Bailey had a sack. David Bailey had 9 tackles. Defensive end with 9 tackles is crazy. Ben Roberts, Jacob Rodriguez had phenomenal games. Like, these guys were one of the best defense in the country for a reason. The problem is their offense. Their offense had a bunch of guys, didn't have enough dudes.
If I'm Jacob Rodriguez, I'm walking in that locker room after the game. I'm slapping Baron Morton right in the face. Like, what is your problem? I'm slapping everybody on offense. Because you know what? I didn't lose. Y'all lost. That defense played their heart out. And the defense, I mean, again, they had Oregon had.
I mean, one of the touchdowns came after Texas Tech fumbled at the 6-yard line.
Right.
So you're being asked to defend 6 yards of field before the end zone. Like, in almost no situation are you going to be able to stop them from 6 yards out.
Now, and then I want to give Oregon their flowers too. I know I'm sitting there over here, like, gassing up Texas Tech after a loss. Brandon Finney Jr., true freshman, 2 picks and a forced fumble. You want to talk about having a day? That is insane, Jake.
He's been one of the best cornerbacks in the country, regardless of class.
Oh, but that in a quarterfinal to do that.
You want to talk about having one of your best games of the year and one of the biggest moments? Yeah, dude had 40 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, fumble recovery, 3 interceptions, and a touchdown, and 7 passes defended as a true freshman this year. Brandon Finney is one of the best cornerbacks in the country and is going to be a preseason American next year.
You know what his third touch? He had 3 interceptions on the year. 2 of them were against Texas Tech. You know what the other one was?
It's at Penn State.
It was the pick 6 against Indiana.
Oh, wow. Want to talk about showing up in big moments.
Yeah. So he's a big time player. So Brandon Finney, I didn't realize how good you were until after I watched that, and I had no choice but to recognize your game after that. Went back and look at you a little bit more. I'm like, okay, hand up. I guess I don't know ball. I don't know Oregon ball as well as I should. So hand up, Brandon Finney. You're a freaking stud and a half.
Yeah, Brandon Finney.
Which brings me to this point.
Stud.
Why don't we have more defensive players getting considered for the Heisman Trophy? You talk about David Bailey and some of the big time plays he made. You talk about Reuben Bain. You talk about a Brandon Finney. Like, these guys are super. Like, if Brandon Finney doesn't have that pick 6 against Indiana in the regular season, who knows what the final score is? I mean, it ends up only being a 10-point game, but maybe Indiana goes out there and just drums them. I mean, that was what, beginning of the fourth quarter when that happened.
Part of it is because, I mean, just like you and I, we can't watch literally every single game. So we're either, looking at box scores, watching highlights, and no offense to cornerbacks, but it's so hard to judge a cornerback based on how good they are because the best cornerbacks have the least amount of tackles. I mean, think back to, like, this is NFL, but old school Darrelle Revis. Like, nobody threw on Darrelle Revis because he was that good. Now in college, there's very few guys that are so good that you can't throw their way. But Darrelle Revis was so good at one point that there's a reason why they called it Revis Island. And yeah, he could be the defensive player of the year with like 16 tackles.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can have 1 interception, but you're so locked down that the way the game is played and the way it's shown on TV, if Brandon Finney goes out there next year and has 10 tackles, no interceptions, but like you see his PFF grade is like 96 because he's such a lockdown corner, you don't see it on TV because that the screen doesn't extend that far. We're watching the quarterback. We're watching the offensive and defensive line.
True.
So I think that's a reason why you don't see some of these non-skill players. I mean, 1994 or 1996, I think Orlando Pace nearly won the Heisman. And he finished 4th.
Should have won.
We never see an offensive lineman in the running. Penei Sewell was one of the best offensive linemen in college football history. Didn't even sniff it. And the dude never allowed anybody to get past him. So
whatever. You're right.
All right. Last one here. Let's talk about the Sugar Bowl here between Ole Miss and Georgia. This game was electric. Well, I was so tired on New Year's and I was ready to go to bed, but I was like, no, as long as this game's competitive, I have to stay up and I've got to watch this game.
Same exact boat.
But once in my mind, once this game is not competitive, I'm going to go to bed. I almost fell asleep on the couch about 3 times. I was waiting for Georgia to get up 3 scores, and then they didn't. And they didn't. They were up 2 scores at halftime. And I thought if Georgia scores one more time and makes it a 3-score game, this is going to be real hard for Ole Miss to come back. But sure enough, start the second half,
No, Georgia was down at halftime. It was in the second quarter. They were up 20 to 7.
Yeah, I'm saying Georgia was up 9 points at halftime. I thought if they got to 17, 18 eventually they were going to win. But Ole Miss scores first in the second half, makes it a 2-point game. Georgia field goal makes it 24-19, and then Trinidad Chambliss takes care of business, takes Ole Miss up 2 scores, up to 34-24, where all of a sudden I was confused. I was confused with Ole Miss being up this much. Georgia was driving. They kicked a 24-yard field goal with 56 seconds left. I thought the script was written. I thought that saw Georgia was going to go down. They were going to score with like 15 seconds left, score a touchdown, and win this game. Ole Miss holds them to a field goal, and an absolute dime from Trinidad Chambliss to Deshaun Stribling for 40 yards, sets him up in field goal range. And Ole Miss could have kicked it from like 75 yards in that game. Dude's like kicking like 55 yards and hitting the net at like the top. This dude like could have lined up at midfield and just been like, yeah, give me the ball. Like, let's go kick this game winner. And sure enough, he probably would have.
Yeah, he played unbelievable. My favorite part of the game, you want to guess?
The ending that was terrible.
The ending that was immaculate. I know it was terrible to a lot of people, but watching the platform come out and get set up, then they have to take it off the field. Then they put it back on the field because they thought
there's
it was done again.
Confetti falling. There's
confetti
in the
falling.
End zone.
They had to take the platform off the field twice. Pete Golding is standing on the sideline having to coach an extra play, and he's covered in Gatorade, just looking pissed off. That was like the ending was just so beautiful. And it's
Ole Miss doesn't even touch the ball because they're like, 1 second will go off. But when the kicking team recovers it, no seconds go off the clock. And then here we are dealing with this stupid play because there's a safety.
And what a cool rule where if you're down when you touch the ball on an onside kick, the clock doesn't start.
So then we get to watch Georgia run the lateral play. And Georgia runs this play for like a good 20, 30 seconds.
And I thought for a second they were going to make, Cash Jones, he looked like the best athlete in the world when he was out there holding that football.
I mean, I guarantee Ole Miss had like 3 safeties back there at the end goal line being like, I swear to God, if any of these dudes get to me, I'm going to be so mad. Like, you 8 up there better take care of these guys. Like, somebody's going to misthrow it because the 3 safeties standing back there at the 10-yard line be like, I better not have to make a tackle right now. I am not ready to do this. But
how are Kawan Lacey's ribs?
What did you say?
How are Kawan Lacey's ribs?
I guess we're going to find out.
Would you rather be Kawan Lacey's ribs or Gunnar Stockton's brain?
Because
Gunnar Stockton's brain got rattled a couple times.
He got rocked. Got absolutely rocked.
Yeah, he
took some shots in that game.
The shot that just like rains in my head is the one he rolled out to the left, bought some time. I don't even know I can't even remember if it was completion or not. But I've never seen someone go from standing upright to being parallel to the ground that fast.
The dude just put his shoulder straight into Stockton's chest.
Clean, very clean hit. Such
a clean hit, but man, did he lay the wood on that one.
This is a very, very fun game to watch. I will say, it's nice seeing Ole Miss do well with Lane Kiffin not there. Obviously, you know how I feel about Lane Kiffin. And then Trinidad Chambliss has already announced if he gets an extra year of eligibility, he's coming back to Ole Miss. I hate it for the players right now that after every game, people want to talk about Lane Kiffin and how much money he's made and what he's going to do next. Like right now, the topic is, well, some of the coaches might not be able to stay at Ole Miss because it's tampering. LSU's going to consider it tampering. And I'm like, what are we doing? You're really just punishing these kids because you want to be who you are. And like, I hate that. But Trinidad Chambliss, if you didn't believe in him before this game, you have no choice but believe he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country by far. And I put a tweet out there, and I was like, who are how would you rank the four remaining quarterbacks in the playoff? And that would be Trinidad Chambliss, Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, and Carson Beck. First off, two people actually answered Carson Beck, and I had to I almost put in an asterisk under it saying, obviously Carson Beck is going to be everyone's number 4, but he is a playoff quarterback, so he has to be included. And two people actually said Carson Beck. But I don't know how you can watch that game against Georgia and not think Trinidad Chambliss could be one of the best. I mean, statistically, he's the best.
I think that we did it wrong in that Trinidad Chambliss should have been in the Heisman discussion. I don't know if he would have won it over Mendoza, but I think Trinidad Chambliss is one of the 5 best players in college football right now.
He's the people's Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
He's Diego Pavia without a mouth.
Yeah, he's humble, and the dude just plays ball. I love the story coming from Division II. Should have went to Temple, but that's neither here nor there.
I think he might have made the right choice, though, Jake. I think it ended up working out pretty good for him.
It did work out pretty good for him. He was a guaranteed starter at Temple, and he was the backup at Ole Miss, but Ole Miss dropped a bag. So you gotta respect it. But right now, Trinidad Chambliss is playing like one of the best players in the country, and at least one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the entire country for the whole season. I know, yes, obviously they're in the semifinals, but when you talk about for the entire season, I think it's very clear that, was he the best quarterback in the SEC this year?
Well, can you name 2 guys better than him? If you want to have an argument, Diego Pavia.
Diego Pavia isn't.
No.
I wouldn't put Mateer over him either.
Nope.
I wouldn't put Simpson over him either.
Perbula, no. Bo Perbula, no. Lenore Sellers, no. DJ Lagway, no. Taylor Green, no.
Joey Aguilar,
no. I like how we both went to Tennessee after Arkansas. Arch Manning, no.
I think there's a legitimate argument that Trinidad Chambliss was the best SEC quarterback this year.
I truly, if there is, I feel like there's. Calzada for Kentucky, way better.
What sport? Ping pong?
No, I don't know. I can't think of anybody. I don't think there is somebody. There is nobody. Not a soul.
No, you could make your argument for Diego Pavia, but I think watching Trinidad Chambliss throughout the year, he's gotten better and better and better.
Isn't that just nice? Watching rags to riches and then come out there and play the way he did. We saw 3 blue bloods go down, which I don't know if you consider Georgia a blue blood, but the top 3 teams,
not, they're pretty darn close to one.
Right. So you've got Alabama, you've got Ohio State all lose in the same weekend, and that's been the winners of the national championship the past 5-6 years, right? So
if you go back to the start of the college football playoffs and you look, Alabama, those 3 teams, Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, have combined for what, 8 national championships or something?
Hey, don't leave Clemson out.
They're not in the playoffs, so they got left out. But those 3 programs, there's only been 2 other programs to win a national championship, and that's Michigan and Clemson.
Oh, Michigan, so 3.
Oh, yeah, 3, my bad. So there's only been 3 other programs to win a national championship, and Clemson won 2, Michigan won 1, and LSU won 1.
Right.
Other than that, it's been Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, and those teams have also all made up for national championship appearances as well.
And it's funny, so we include those teams. If you combine Clemson, Alabama, or if you combine Clemson, Ohio State, and Georgia, you have as many as Alabama won. Because I'm pretty sure we all won 2, and then 6.
Alabama has 6.
No, he had a couple BCSs, so never mind. Not in the playoff area. Playoff area, I think he has 4.
But yeah, you want to talk about knocking out the big names. I mean, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. I mean, Alabama and Georgia met in a national championship game. Alabama, Ohio State met in a national championship game. Alabama, Georgia met, or Ohio State and Georgia met in a semifinal game. Like, these have been the teams of the last decade that have been in the playoff championship discussion.
And this is the first time since 2014, or since the playoff has been around, that it hasn't been Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State in the semifinal.
Yeah.
This is the first time. So all three of those teams have made it to the semifinal. Like, at least one of those three teams have made it to the semifinal every single year, except for this one. And this is all four of these teams. Three of them will be their first national championship ever, and Miami's will be the first time since in 24 years, which we're taking away from talking about Ole Miss. Ole Miss played lights out. Gunnar Stockton played well. Gunnar Stockton is tough as hell. So, again, I don't want to take away from Ole Miss and what they did, but, man, like, it was so much fun watching Gunnar Stockton get his freaking head knocked off of his shoulders, get back up, and just keep playing tough, hard-nosed football. If you don't respect Gunnar Stockton, you don't know ball. He is a true gamer. I mean, that was just inspiring watching him play football. Zachariah Branch, who just announced he's going to the NFL, just a great football player. I mean, watching him and Harrison Wallace like go back and forth.
Harrison Wallace had himself a day.
You ain't lying.
9 catches, $156, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, he was lights out. So was Stribling. Stribling was lights out. So Zachariah Branch put the team on his back in terms of receiving yards. There was Colby Young had a great catch, but outside of that, like, no one else really did anything except for Zachariah Branch. So we kind of talked about Georgia being a little weak on offense. Like, they weren't complete on offense, and that's not nothing against Gunnar Stockton, but he's not some lethal surgical passer who was going to come in there and tear you up and throw for 300 yards. He's going to go in there and throw for 200, run for 20, 25 yards, 30 yards, and he's just going to out-tough you. You're not going to sack him very easily. He's going to be a tough guy to beat. But then enters Ole Miss, and Ole Miss was just a perfect team to play Georgia. I really think that. I think Ole Miss was probably the best suited team to beat this Georgia team in the playoffs because of how powerful their offense is. I mean, Georgia was winning games because their defense is so good, but you cannot stop this Ole Miss offense.
You mentioned there earlier this season that the Georgia offense, Zachariah Branch had twice as many catches as anybody else on this offense.
Yeah. So you can't be that one-dimensional in passing game.
Obviously, Branch is phenomenal, but somebody else has to step up in these key moments because the defense is going to know where the ball's going most of the time. Okay, let's jump over to the Peach Bowl. Peach Bowl is being played on Thursday. Indiana is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. We both did our keys for both teams. Do you want to start with Oregon or Indiana?
I'll start with Oregon.
Okay.
But I also want to say this. Hot take. I don't know if it's a hot take. I hate rematches in the college football.
Third one in the playoff already.
Hate it. This could have been easily avoided. But anyway, I'm not going to harp on it.
I don't know if this one could have really been avoided, but
maybe you're right.
I don't think this one could have been avoided. The other ones could have been, though.
The other ones could have been avoided. But this is going to be a great game. So I'm not going to sit here and pout about great football. If I had an issue with it, it would be that. I don't like watching rematches. Anyway, my key for Oregon winning this game is to make Indiana's offense one-dimensional. So in games where Indiana struggles to run the football outside of Wisconsin, so they didn't run the football very well against Wisconsin, they still won by 24. But outside of Wisconsin, they average 110.25 yards per game and 3.18 yards per carry, and they only win by an average of 5 points. So if they don't run for an exponential amount of points or amount of yards, they're going to struggle. So outside of the 4 games, I think it's Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, and Ohio State. So those are the 4 games where they won by 10 or less. They averaged 110.25 yards and 3.18 yards per carry. And in all the other Power 4 games, I didn't include their G5 wins and their FCS wins. They ran for 246.5 yards and ran for 5.7 yards per carry. So it's a massive difference. If you can make them one-dimensional, you have an opportunity to win. Oregon was one of those games where they were one-dimensional. I believe they had 111 yards rushing for 3 yards a carry. 111 yards is not bad, but 3 yards a carry is not going to get it done most of the time because Indiana is so complete. They're able to win that game. But if Oregon can have a similar game plan, but maybe a little bit better, a little bit tighter, make them one-dimensional, that game flips on its head and it goes the other way. So I think if Oregon wants to win this game, they've got to make Indiana one-dimensional.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you because I wrote Oregon needs to win the line of scrimmage when they're on defense. That same thing. Indiana struggled when they allow less than 4 yards per carry. This Indiana offense, though, metrics, is top 25 in basically like every category.
Yeah.
Rushing, passing, third down conversions, red zones, sacks allowed. They're really good. And I don't know why people have not bought into Indiana yet. And if you haven't, after just watching that beatdown of Alabama, I don't know what to tell you. This is going to be a really good game. A really, really good game because Oregon is incredibly talented on both sides of the ball. Oregon's offensive line is probably not as good as Indiana's offensive line, in my opinion. I think that's the one thing. I would take Indiana's offensive line over Oregon's offensive line. I think they're close, but I think there's a couple of weak spots on the Oregon offensive line. But a guy like Bear Alexander needs to have a big day. He's got to have a big day in the middle of that defensive line, being able to move people and just, take away running lanes. How can you take away running lanes against guys like Kalen Black and Ronan Hemby, guys that are very talented running backs?
I will say this. It helps when you have a guy like DJ Uyangale's brother, Mateo Uyangale, who they call Young Concrete. If you have a guy named Young Concrete on your defensive line, I think you get a couple extra points, in terms of statistical greatness. So Young Concrete's going to play a big role in this game, Jake.
You always find the funny names. For Oregon, what is Oregon's, or we just talked about, what is Indiana's key to the game?
Mine's avoiding turnovers. So, and this was with the idea that Oregon does the same thing and limits them in the running game. You cannot turn the ball over. Fernando Mendoza, I think, only threw for one interception against Oregon last time they played. It was a pick six. And I don't want to say luckily, so I can't think of the right word, but it's because it's not lucky. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, he's proven time and time again in the big moments that he's able just to stay calm, cool, and collected and march on the field and handle business. But you can't keep playing with that fire. I mean, you saw what Oregon was able to do to Texas Tech because of turnovers. That game was a very attainable game for Texas Tech until they just kept turning the ball over and over and over and over. So if Indiana can avoid the turnovers and play a clean game of football, I think they handle business against Oregon. I think they can, and I think they will. I mean, they had one blemish last time they played, and it was a 10-point game. I think Indiana is that much more complete than Oregon is. And I think if they can just avoid turnovers, they're good. They're good to make it to the national championship.
Yeah, so I'm sticking basically the same thing for Indiana is stopping the run game. Texas Tech did a really good job of stopping the run game and kept themselves in it. Also, because even with all the turnovers, being able to stop the running game. I mean, this was 6-0 at halftime, 13-0 at one point, like 16-0, where it's still only a 2-score game. Indiana's offense is much better than Texas Tech. Now, their defense might not be as good as Texas Tech because they don't have that defensive front that Texas Tech is. You don't have a David Bailey. You don't have a Lee Hunter. You don't have Jacob Rodriguez. You don't have Ben Roberts on that defense. But you still got a pretty darn good defense. You still got one of the best in the country. Might not be number one, but it's top 10 for sure. Stopping Oregon's run game. Guys like DeCorian Moore, Gary Bryant haven't done a lot. Kenyon Sadiq didn't even have a great game against Texas Tech. Indiana, if you can stop that running game and don't let De'Aaron Hill and Noah Whittingham and Jordan Davison, get loose, like this becomes a much more obtainable game.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you need to shut them down to 50 yards, but even if you slow them down to 3.5 yards per carry, where third down is now a decision of we're 3rd and 4. Are we going to throw it? Are we going to do this? 3rd and 5. Putting the game on Dante Moore's shoulders. Now, I think Dante Moore is phenomenally talented. I think he is incredibly talented. But we saw that he did struggle against Indiana the last time. There's a reason why Indiana came out on top last time. When it gets to those situations, will we see the Oregon receivers step up? Will we see some of these talented players step up? Can Indiana get to Dante Moore? They rush the passer. I think they'll have some success rushing the passer here. But if you can eliminate that running game, I think you've got a really good chance of winning this game.
Yeah. But who you got? Indiana by the spread, and what's your over-under?
I'm going to take Indiana to cover this spread. I like low scoring. I think both these defenses are pretty good. What was it, 30-17 or something like that last time?
30-20.
30-20. I like less points this time. I think the stakes are higher. I think you're going to see a little bit more conservative. I like 24-16. So it'd be under 40 points. I think you get some field goals in here. I like 24-16. Indiana.
I think Indiana wins. I think Oregon covers. I think it's a 3-point victory. And I like to take the over. And I actually think the opposite. I don't think they play conservatively. I think both of these coaches are psychopaths.
I agree. They're psychopaths. I just think that some of the risks might not pay off as much.
True. And they might respect the other team too much to go for it. I mean, in some circumstances, Oregon wasn't afraid to go for it against Texas Tech because they didn't respect their defense or their offense. Excuse me. I think this game is going to go over. I believe when they played in Oregon, it was raining, which could have played made a big impact in that game. This is in a dome. For Fernando Mendoza. That one didn't go the way I thought it would. He's just going to play well in a dome. So I don't have any stat to back that up, but I'm just going to throw it out there. So I think because of that, we're going to get it over. Indiana's going to win on a last-second field goal. Give me Indiana 34, Oregon 31.
Okay. Let's head over to the Fiesta Bowl Friday night. We've got Miami as a 3.5-point favorite, over under at 51.5 points. What is your key for Miami to win this game?
They can't over pursue Trinidad Chambliss. So you look at the Georgia game. Georgia was able to get into the backfield fairly often against Ole Miss. However, they weren't necessarily able to stop Trinidad Chambliss, and he was able to do some things. Now, granted, some of the decision making he did, like running back 20 yards before throwing the ball for a 5-yard gain. Maybe not the best thing to do, not sustainable. But when Chambliss is able to get out of the pocket and to extend plays and make plays, he's not going to run the football. Like he's not a run first guy. So by no means am I saying he's a runner. He is, but he's not. That's not his priority. He's going to keep his eyes downfield, and if you break contain and give him open space out of the pocket and allow a jailbreak, the receivers just to run with him and the corners can't follow him anymore, you give him extra time, it's going to be bad. So Miami's got to be able to really pursue Trinidad Chambliss from the inside of the pocket. They're going to need to do some games. They need to bring some pretty exotic blitzes and be able to attack him from the interior to make him roll out for Ruben Bain. And why do I always forget his name? What's the other defensive end?
Akeem Mesidor.
Thank you. Akeem Mesidor to contain him and then hopefully get home. So if Miami wants to win this game, they better be able to win. Continue doing what they've been doing, and that's get after the quarterback.
So for Miami, I think this is a similar game plan offensively to Ohio State, that you can't ask Carson Beck to do too much. And they haven't. They haven't asked him. I mean, he's thrown for 100 and 130 yards so far. So how do you lean on Mark Fletcher to move the sticks and do enough to move the ball downfield? And then Carson Beck, complete passes for 7, 8, 9 yards. I think they understand that if Carson Beck throws interceptions, it's going to be a mental game then of if he makes a mistake, is it going to spiral? How much is it going to hurt us? Are we able to overcome mistakes like that? Fumbling the ball, your running backs, you've got enough running backs. And yeah, sometimes it's freak things of how fumbles happen. An interception, though, is squarely on the quarterback usually that you made a bad throw. You looked at the wrong guy. You made a bad read. And you've got to keep Carson Beck upright, and you've got to keep him avoiding turnovers.
Yeah.
The defensive line, though, has to control the line of scrimmage once again. I mean, Mesidor, Ruben Bain, get after Ambliss, but you cannot let him loose. This is very different. This is more like Marcel Reed, who is way more accurate and way more dangerous. That, yeah, he's still going to look downfield, and he's still going to find guys. And he's just proven it over and over the last couple of weeks that this dude is a gamer.
Yeah, I was about to say, if Marcel Reed was a good passer, he would be Trinidad Chambliss.
That is a phenomenal comparison. Phenomenal comparison. What's your key for Ole Miss?
Ole Miss has got to stop the run. So I talked about it earlier. Miami has found their identity, and that is running the football with Mark Fletcher and allowing Carson Beck to just manage the game. Just dink and dunk. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. He doesn't have to press. They don't have to put pressure on him. And he's able just to play the game a little bit more free than he had during the regular season, in my opinion. And because of that, if Ole Miss can stop the run and make Carson Beck have to win the game, I think you're bound to see one of those Carson Beck games where he turns the ball over twice, where he fumbles it, throws a couple picks. And I think that's what Ole Miss needs to do. They need to be able to put the game. They need to make Carson Beck beat them, and I don't think he can. So if they can stop the run, if they can stop Mark Fletcher, it's going to be a long day for Miami, in my opinion. Or maybe not a long day, but it'll be a tough day for Miami.
That's what I look at as well. Of how do you get to Beck? Well, you get to Beck by obvious passing downs. If you're sitting there at 3rd and 3. There's a real chance that they're going to run Mark Fletcher on that play. They might, or they're going to run, dink and dunks all day where you don't have time to get to Carson Beck. How do you get him in 2nd and 11, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 on obvious passing downs where you can pin your ears back and go get him? Because Ole Miss, honestly, is not the best at rushing the passer. They are 68th in sacks per game, only 2.08, and they're not the best at getting a passer. So, Pete Golding, what kind of blitzes are you going to dial up when you get the chance to go after Carson Beck? And what are you going to do to try to get him off balance where you can go get that ball? Because if you can go get that ball, you're going to get a better chance of winning this game if you can win the turnover battle. Also, I think you need to keep the momentum going with Harrison Wallace. That dude just had a monster game, career game, 150 yards, 9 catches. That tandem between Chambliss and Harrison Wallace, keep it going. Keep it going. Keep feeding it. They're obviously, relying on that. Charlie Weiss Jr., you got to keep going to your guys. Just let them eat, feed them, and let them go. Now, who do you have, Miami or Ole Miss?
I've got Miami winning this game. I talked about what Ole Miss's key to the game was, not stopping the run. Ole Miss is 65th in the country in stopping the run. They haven't been able to really do that all year long. I think this is where the outside noise kind of piles up on Ole Miss, and then just the trenches of Miami have been able to dominate everybody. I don't see Ole Miss's trenches giving Miami any trouble. So give me Miami. Give me Miami 38, Ole Miss 29.
I like Ole Miss here. I do like Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss. I'm really buying Trinidad Chambliss. I think this team has continued to evolve. I know Georgia had their moments. I think that Ole Miss will do enough. I like the under in this game as well. 51 points feels like way too many to me. I think it's a close game. I think it's real close. I like Ole Miss to win 27-21 in potentially a heartbreaker for Miami.
So you're taking the under in both games, and I'm taking the over in both games. Are you a scumbag? You are a Big Ten fan.
Yeah, I love me some unders. Love me some unders. Love me some unders. Well, that does it for our episode this week. Obviously, I have Ole Miss. Will has Miami. We both have Indiana winning the Peach Bowl. With that being said, make sure to go check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you get your social media at Walk On Red Shirts. Make sure to rate the podcast. Give us 5 stars. Give us 4 stars. Give us whatever star you think that we deserve. Go rate us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast. And let us know what you think. Go check out the walkonredshirts.com. Season is coming to an end. We only have a handful of games left. Speaking of a handful of games, let's check in on that FCS game here real quick. What is our score? 28-21, and Illinois State's got the ball. Guess we're not going to know who's going to win. But Illinois State has the ball with 10 minutes left in the game. So I hope everybody's watching that game. Actually, Illinois State just scored, so they're about to kick off. Never mind. With that being said, make sure you go follow Will at Walk On Moose. The man is getting close to 3,000 followers. Follow us at Walk On Red Shirts. That being said, we will see everybody again next week to preview the national championship game.
See ya.